All right, today we're going to look at lesson 5, which is problem solving strategies. It just looks at a few different ways that you can solve any given problem, okay? So, the first way we're going to look at would be look for a pattern. So it gives us this table of time in seconds and people. You can. Okay, so it says Ramon got a text from Angela. After 10 seconds, he forwarded it to 2 of his friends. After 10 more seconds, those 2 friends forwarded it to 2 more friends. If the text was forwarded like this every 10 seconds, how many people received Angela's text after 40 seconds? All right, so there's 2 ways you could write this out, right? This is the table they give. The other way is you could write it out about how many people it went to, right? So 1, then 2, then it went to 4. So looking for a pattern would just look at how do those numbers change each time, right? So how would I get from 1 to 2?
+1 times 2.
Okay, either +1 or times 2, right? It could be either one of those, but what I need to figure out is which one works from 2 to 4, +1 or times 2? Times 2. So that means our pattern is to multiply by 2, right? What's 4 times 2?
8.
And what's 8 times 2?
16.
Okay, so if you want to fill that in here, after 30 seconds it had gone to 8 more people. After 40 seconds, 16. All right, now the question said, how many people received Angela's text? Can anyone tell me what that would be?
16.
Is it only 16? What do you need to do? Say it again, Gage. You need to add it all up, right? Because it first went to just Ramon, then he forwarded it to 2 people, which forwarded it 4, 8, 16. Okay? Anybody have their calculator out? Okay, Savannah? Say it again, Savannah. 31. Okay, so here's the deal. The first way we look for a pattern is probably one of the easier ones, right? If you have, especially if you have a sequence of numbers, then you can just look at that pattern and continue it. Now, remember how I gave the example of sometimes it may look like addition, sometimes it may look like multiplication. You need to check that it works for each number, okay? All right, everybody okay with that one? Yes? Okay, all right, next one we're gonna look at is guess, check, revise. Okay, so example 2 says each hand in the human body has 27 bones. There are 6 more bones in the fingers than in the wrist. There are 3 fewer bones in the palm than in the wrist. How many bones are in each part of the hand? So it's trying to find out a total, okay? So what we can do is set up a chart. So it said the palm has 3 fewer than in the wrist. So we're going to say W minus 3, because that's what we're using for the wrist. Fingers have 6 more than the wrist. So to find the number of fingers, we're going to do W plus 6. All right, and then our total, which it said there were a total of 27. Okay, now, we may not necessarily need this many once we get to the right answer, okay? But we're just gonna try and see, okay? So, somebody give me a number that we could start with for the wrist, because we're just gonna guess, check, and revise. That means we're gonna pick a number, we're gonna see if it works. If it doesn't, we're gonna go from there, okay? Somebody just give me a number. 3, okay? All right, so let's say there's 3 bones in the wrist. How would I figure out how many are in the palm? Says it right here. W minus 3. W is the wrist. So 3 minus 3 would be equal to 0. Okay, how would I figure out how many are in the fingers? W plus 6. So 3 plus 6 is 9, right? Then what I'm going to do is add those 3 together. What's 3 plus 0? 3. 3 plus 9. Okay, am I close to 27? Am I even halfway to 27? No. So it would make sense. My next number should be at least what?
Double.
At least double, probably a little bit more. So somebody else tell me what number you want to try next.
7.
Okay, let's try 7. Okay, so Ethan, if I'm using 7, how would I figure out how many are in the palm? 7 minus 3, which is what? 4. How would I figure out how many are in the fingers? What's 7 plus 6? 13. Good. Okay, now let's add. What's 7 plus 4? 11 plus 13? 24. So I'm really close. That means it's probably going to be what number? Sorry, I should have put X's on these because those weren't correct. Okay, so let's try 8. All right, so 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. For fingers, I'm going to check 8 plus 6, which is 14. Then I'm going to add 8 plus 5, 13. 13 plus 14, 27, which is what I was wanting. Okay? All right? So, the question said, how many bones are in each part of the hand? I'm going to erase that just so I have some room to write that. So, wrist is going to be 8. Palm is going to be what? 5. And fingers would be, how many were in the fingers? 14. Okay. Here's the thing on guess and check that you want to think about, right? Notice on that first one, our answer wasn't even halfway there. We didn't try to use 4 and then try to use 5, right? Use educated guesses. If I know I'm not even halfway to my total, I'm going to bump it up at least over half. All right? Okay, next one we're going to look at is make a table. Is anybody still writing that? Okay. Okay, number 3 says, a vending machine accepts dollars. Each item in the machine costs 65 cents. If the machine gives back only nickels, dimes, quarters, what combination of those coins are possible as change for $1? Okay, so here's the first thing we need to know, right? Everything costs 65 cents. It only takes dollar bills. What it would be the amount of change?
5.
You're correct. So if it's $1, everything costs 65 cents. My change is always going to be 35 cents. So this is what I'm looking for in my table, right? Now, in the table, it's only giving back quarters, dimes, nickels. Somebody should probably turn their phone off. Okay, so here's the deal. We're always going to start with our biggest value, see how many of those we could use. Then we'll go to the next one, then we'll go from there, right? So what's the most amount of quarters you would receive? 1. If I receive 1 quarter, how many dimes? 1. How many nickels? 0. Okay? That's option 1. Okay? Is it possible any other way I could receive a quarter? Yes, what would it be?
Quarter.
1 quarter.
Four and 5 cents.
How many nickels?
0.
2, right? Wouldn't 2 nickels be equal to 10 cents? So 1 quarter, 2 nickels. Okay, are those my only 2 options for quarters?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So my next option is going to be 0 quarters. What's the most amount of dimes you could receive? 3. 3 dimes would be 30 cents, and then I would need how many nickels? 1. Okay. Now let's go one less. Let's say I only received 2 dimes. So how many cents would that be? 20. So I would need how many nickels? 3. Okay, we'll go one less on the dimes. What if I only receive 1 dime for 10 cents? How many nickels would I receive? 5, because it'd be 25 cents. Okay, my last choice would be 0 quarters, 0 dimes, all nickels. How many nickels are equal to 35 cents? 7. Okay. All right. So, how many different combinations did we find? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, notice when I set up my table, how careful I was to check each individual option. All right. The biggest mistake that people make is not to check every possible option that you might have. All right. Okay, we okay with that one? All right, last one. Okay, number 4 is to work backwards. Okay, so our problem says Kendrick spent half the money he had this morning on lunch. After lunch, he loaned his friend $1. Now he has $1.50. How much money did he start with? Okay, so, well, we're going to work backwards. Okay, the last thing I told you was he had how much money? Anybody remember? $1.50. So if we're working backwards, we're going to start with how much he ended the day with, okay? Right before that, it said after lunch, he loaned his friend $1. So what would I do there? Add $1 back, because we're working backwards from what happened. What's 150 plus $1? 250. Okay, and the only thing it said before that is that he spent half the money he had on lunch. So what's the opposite of taking half? Adding half or doubling it, right?
Yeah.
What's twice $2.50? $5. Okay. So here's the deal. Usually work backwards is one of the easier ones because 1, you don't have a lot of steps. 2, you just do the opposite of what you've been told, right? If he gave away $1, we added it back. If he took half, we multiplied by 2. Okay. So you just do the opposite of what you see. Yes?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Page 28. Now, here's the deal. If you get to 1 and you're not sure which of the 4 methods you should use, what should you do?
Use all 4.
No.
Ask you.
Ask.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to use all 4, Cash.